there folks, it's David from Loaded 4x4 and I am incredibly excited because I'm here at our partner Milford Industry at their Skunk Works, where we've just been developing over the last 12 months a range of under-vehicle protection to go onto these babies, my favourite, the brand new Isuzu D-MAX and MU-X. Yes, we've got under-vehicle protection to replace the stock items that come with the vehicle that are incredibly strong and they look incredibly sexy. But I've got a ripper of a story to tell you about the evolution of this bash plate design. We're going to go into the Skunk Works laboratory behind me, meet up with Steen and Matt from Milford, and we'll explain to you the process that we've evolved over the last 12 months in developing these bash plates into what we think are going to be industry leaders and why they deserve to be on your new four-wheel drive. So we're in the lab now, and I thought it'd be a good way to kick off this yarn by having a look at the original bash plates that came with the D-MAX, came off that car that's up on the hoist. And Steen, how are we, mate?
Oh, I'm really well, mate, but they're not quite original anymore, are they? What's this all about?
It's looking a bit battered and bruised, isn't it? This one came off the car just recently, and I was surprised to see just what sort of a hit it took, but guess where it happened?
I'm going to guess on a rock somewhere.
Nope.
No.
Sharinga Beach. On the sand.
Is that right?
So what had happened is I managed to beach the D-MAX on a bit of a rise down near the water's edge. Couldn't go forward, so I had to go backwards. So I picked up reverse gear. The force of the sand picked this up and just bent it over.
Killed it and has actually broken it as well.
You certainly can't rest the weight of the car on these front three, let alone the back one, which is a composite plate made out of a plastic.
Just plastic.
So that brings us to the evolution of our design, and it's been about a year's worth of work and based on some experience. So we've got bash plates out already for Triton Pajero Sport.
So for about 6 months we've had the Triton and Pajero Sport done. So MQ Triton, MR Triton and QE and QF Pajero Sport. A 3mm 4-piece setup, so transfer case, gearbox, front diff area and the front of the engine where the radiator and intercooler are.
And cleverly allowing for some extra cooling in that
Plenty of extra cooling in the front, so we've actually gone over and above the stock cooling, which becomes an issue when you fit bars to those cars.
Yes.
It's not an issue in the D-MAX and BT-50 and MU-X, as you can see with the front plate. It actually all sits under that. So this was a lot more straightforward, but we've got a great system. Built some mount strengthening in, so the front mounts that crack on the Tritons. We've got a bracket that bolsters those. A couple of other brackets to pull the plates up and give a bit more ground clearance. So there's great features. All the parts are available separately. So you can buy a transfer case plate for it. I think we're the only ones in the market with a full-size transfer case plate.
Otherwise it's totally exposed.
Absolutely, so we're selling quite a few of those. The whole lot's selling really well. And now we're on to this one.
So folks, given that our Mitsubishi range is going out the door like hotcakes as fast as we can build them, there is every good reason to suspect that the Isuzu range for MU-X, D-MAX, and also I keep forgetting the Mazda BT-50 because the chassis design is identical, should go just as well. So let's have a look at what they look like on the car. So now we're at the business end of this little yarn that we've put together for you today about the new under-vehicle protection system that Loaded 4x4 are offering up in partnership with Milford Industries. And I'm very lucky to have my good mate Matt here, who's one of the many engineers involved in the project to get it off the ground. So Matt, thank you for coming along. And I wonder if you can walk the viewers through the process over the last 12 months that we've engaged in to make this possible. We're looking at the prototypes here. We'll put the proper ones on in just a moment, but walk us through how we got to where we are.
So when we start doing a development on an under-vehicle body protection panels, we'll start with scanning the vehicle. So all the OE panels will come off of the vehicle. We'll put all laser dots over it. We've got a laser scanner.
That's that torch thing I see you waving around. And what does that pick up?
So that'll get us all the dimensions and all the features that we need to obviously avoid and design around. So we've got obviously our bolt hole locations, so we're making sure we're getting the correct bolt hole locations for mounting and OE mounting. You don't have to put any fancy modified brackets or anything like that in there. Making sure we're getting maintenance points. So
this one's for the
sump. For the sump of the engine, making sure we can maintain the vehicle without having to take those panels off.
So to be able to get a socket in there with plenty of clearance, wind it out, drain it, and put it all back in again.
Not make a mess. Have it just simple. Makes it a good thing for that product.
What about things like these vents? What's their job?
So the vents that we've got here, again, on the prototype, we've got them facing east-west. We've gone to a north-south orientation. That's to help with removal of like sand, dirt, mud. Make sure you're not holding onto heaps of weight after you dunk it in the mud or something like that.
Yep.
And it also offers a small amount of cooling, so you get a bit of a cooling benefit there as well.
Yeah, I know my experience going bush, I usually end up with a ton of rubbish in there, and my service technicians hate me for it every time. So
take a panel off with dirt in it.
Now,
all good.
This section obviously covers the front diff, the front suspension, and also to the sump with the engine here. We move into the gearbox area here, and folks, please excuse the Corten look. We went for a sort of a retro vibe. No, we didn't. This was just part of the prototyping phase. Yeah. So what does this bit do?
So again, this one here is covering up or protecting more so our gearbox, transfer case, and driveline components. Again, this is a flat. We've made this as flat as possible, so if you're bringing the vehicle over, say, a sand dune or something like that, you're not going to get hung up on it. It's going to promote the vehicle sliding over it rather than getting stuck on a cross member or something like that.
Because you might remember the original equipment that I supplied, there was that big tear, when obviously there was an exposed edge that got caught up on.
Of course, and that'll make it harder to traverse those sort of features.
So we can just skim over the top. Yeah, cool. And as we go down the back here, this transfer case area, again, is good and strong. In fact, so strong. Look at that. Tough as old boots.
Of course.
But we've made some modifications compared to this prototype to the pre-production models that we're about to do.
So again, looking at this one, so we started the design phase with some wings in an attempt to mount it as rigidly as possible, and we've gone away from this design and we've adopted a more rigid design. And again, you see there's a very small amount of flex here, and we've eliminated that, so that'll cut down on NVH, noise and vibration. So if you're doing like long highway driving, there's not going to be any rattling or anything like that. And again, you can hold pretty much the entire weight on the vehicle because we're using this rear cross member. And again, protecting all the drive shaft components.
Because that's something that's often overlooked, is that when you go bush, there's all sorts of debris that comes in from all sorts of different directions. And you can imagine a stone that got in there and just start rubbing away, it'd create a big old racket.
Vibration and stuff like that, and it'd be slightly annoying. So we've done our best to consider that as well and mitigate it as best as possible.
Right, excellent. Well, thank you, sir. Folks, you can rest assured that there's been a hell of a lot of thinking gone into the development of these, and I'm just looking forward in just a minute to get the new plates on there and see what our pre-production models look like. I've just had the pleasure of watching this guy, who is a gun on tools, install our brand new alloy under vehicle protection underneath my D-MAX in a record 35 minutes flat, and he didn't even raise a sweat. So mate, you obviously thought long and hard about the installation for the home handyman, because I'm an absolute gronker on the tools, so you must have been thinking about me right through that process. So how easy is it?
Yeah, so incorporated into the design is, obviously we're using factory mounting locations, so we don't have to put in any extra mounts or anything like that to fit this on. Minimal amount of fasteners that will do the job adequately. Makes it really easy to install. It's fast. They're layered in a way that you can work your way back.
Tiled, I think you referred to it.
Yeah, tiled. You can do it by yourself. You don't need a multiple set of hands. Again, the points that we've done and the mounts that we've come up with on the rear here to make it as rigid as possible.
Because that was a point of difference from the prototype model, wasn't it?
With our prototype. So we've done a bit of a design iteration there where we've optimized this particular mount at the back here, giving that there's no OE options here to mount off of. But again, keeping it simple, making it rigid, minimising noise vibration.
So how confident are you that David's 90 kilos will be supported here?
I'm confident.
Okay, let's go. Here we go. Whee! Push-ups. No worries. Thanks.
So 6mm aluminium makes it really rigid.
Let's talk about that, because the prototype was 3mm steel, and weight is the enemy on these things. So remind me, the original factory gear weighed about 10 kilos from memory.
That's correct,
The prototype steel
went about kind of 30-ish kilos.
Okay, so and now using 6mm alloy, we're down to
24 kilograms.
Wow,
so it's a 6 kilo saving over an aftermarket 3mm steel component.
But the big difference is that we're immensely strong there.
Most certainly, So you've still got that protection. We're not compromising anything on the strength by making it lighter. It's still got those properties. All the folds in the sides here, You can see that that's adding rigidity
Yes.
longitudinally.
And that's the point of difference compared to the prototype model where we had just square edges on there. So rolling them over reinforces them big time.
Adding that rigidity along the length of it.
Yep. So. And I remember you saying with the prototype too is that we were running east-west with the drain point, so I can see the north.
Yep.
South.
So we've come to the decision to turn them to north-south. That gives you a smaller, like if you're ramping over like a lump or a bump in the road, it's not going to catch up on here as easily as it would if this was turned 90 degrees.
Right, I get you.
So again, that's a huge benefit. You're still evacuating dirt, dust, water, stuff like that.
And speaking of evacuating things, I think this is one of your really clever and hugely important design elements. Tell me about this air conditioning drain.
Yep, so again, we've got the condenser drain which comes out of the firewall rather than just having this dump straight on top of the panel.
And just so folk know, it's a plastic tube that exits the moisture that comes out of the air conditioning system.
That's correct, and just dumps it straight on the ground. It's just water vapour.
Yep.
Rather than collecting it or holding it on top of here, and if there is any residual dirt and stuff, turning that into mud, it's going to bypass all of that completely, straight down to the ground.
I have noticed that with other products where you've got a flat sheet piece of steel there, so the water just draining on the backside of that, any dirt and rubbish that's congealed in there is just going to turn to rock, isn't it?
That's correct, it'll just dry on there, and we've kind of mitigated that pretty much completely by having that come through that feature. That's
great. The bolt heads are fitting nice and flush, so again, not much opportunity of giving them a whack, so that's great.
That's good.
And of course, as we come right up to the front, we've got the sump drain pole. Now, this is going to make my mechanic friends very, very happy because the ease of servicing. So tell us about that.
Most certainly. So again, one of the critical features that you kind of don't want to have or want to have is to have access to all the regular servicing, so your oil, your sump plugs, things like that. And rather than having to take this panel off every time you want to do a service, it's much easier to have that accessible straight in there with the tools.
So reach up there with a 17mm socket, no drama at all.
And again, you're not going to drip oil all over the top of your panel. It's going to come through the middle here.
That's
great. That's a huge benefit.
Because that's a big bugbear on my old D-MAX, and it just looks horrible. Ugh. And of course, this fabulous design aesthetic at the front there. You've done a great job on that.
It looks incredible. You get the depth of the lettering and just stands out really, really well. I like that.
So there you go, folks. There is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be purchasing this because it's been thought so thoroughly and the design just looks amazing, and it's just going to add not only a really good aesthetic to your vehicle but also tons of protection when you do take it off-road, because I know I can be confident that I can drag the entirety of this across the rocks up in the Flinders Ranges and know I'm not going to inflict any damage on the vehicle. So thanks, Matt. You're an absolute champion.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Look out for it. It's going to be in our store anytime soon, and buy it.